What's going on today, Gacha Gang? Kawaii50 here with another FGO video, here to talk to you about the legendary Dragon Slayer, the King of Warriors. That's right, it is Sigurd, showing up and bringing the engine update along with him. Ooh, it's crisp. Thank you, Sigurd. Now let's go ahead and look at this man's kit and see exactly what he has to offer us in the 5-star Saber category. So taking a look at Sigurd's stats, when it comes compared to the rest of the servants in the game, he's pretty much on the higher end, especially when it comes to his attack. His 12,465 attack is currently the 10th highest in the entire game. That's right, this man is going to be dealing out some serious damage, and it's going to be serious buster damage thanks to his quick Arts Buster deck and his single target Buster Noble Phantasm. Yes, this man is designed for duels, and that is going to become even more apparent as we go over his abilities. As far as Sigurd's class skills go, he's actually got two that are pretty good. Riding Rank A is going to increase his quick card effectiveness by 10%, and also Divinity B is going to give him a flat extra 175 damage, which is always nice. Now, he only has one quick card, but it does hit 4 times, so you're going to get a pretty decent amount of stars out of that. And of course, we've really gotta put a special focus on Sigurd's first skill because it is crazy, rivaling even that of Billy the Kid. Primordial Rune Warrior Rank B increases Sigurd's crit damage by 50 to 100% for 3 turns, and it is effective for the next 3 attacks. So next 3 cards Sigurd uses, they're going to get a massive critical damage boost, so you can actually strategize on that. And more importantly than anything else, this is on a very low 5-turn cooldown. So in prolonged fights, you can expect Sigurd to pop this ability often, and it is going to be his primary source of damage. Now, the only downside to this is the fact that Sigurd is a Saber class servant, so his Star Gather isn't the best, but we're going to talk about ways to get around that in just a little bit. Level this skill first 100%. It is his main source of damage. Sigurd's second skill is Dragonkind Modification Rank EX. It increases his Buster effectiveness by 30 to 50% for 1 turn, and also gives him a 3-turn Guts that's going to allow him to revive with 1000 HP. The Guts is basically just a nice boost. You are mainly going to be using this when you use Sigurd's Noble Phantasm, because that is going to be how you're going to up its damage, and boy, does it actually need that damage upped. Go ahead and level this second after you sink as many materials as you can into Primordial Rune Warrior. This is going to further boost that damage. And Sigurd's final skill is Crystallization of Wisdom Rank A. It increases a critical star drop rate for 1 ally by 50 to 100%, and also makes the ally debuff immune for 1 turn. Gang, I really wish this skill was better. Sure, it can get you a nice bit of critical stars from a single turn of attack, but so does a Fragment of 2030, and you do not need to attack to get that star bonus. You want Sigurd to be attacking, you want your main damage dealer to be attacking, and you're going to be wanting to use those Buster cards with Sigurd. You don't want to really use those quick cards, and you really want to use those arts cards in order to gain Noble Phantasm whenever possible. So, really gang, level this skill. Really wish it was better. And while I wish this was better mechanically, it really works well into the rule of cool, because man, this Noble Phantasm just looks super awesome. Sigurd's Noble Phantasm is Bulwarkgram Rank A+. It deals damage to a single enemy 600 to 1000% depending on level, and it actually deals extra damage to dragon enemies on top of that. Who'd have thought the Dragon Slayer would deal extra damage to dragons? And that is going to be 150 to 200% extra damage depending on overcharge. Just like with Siegfried, this makes Sigurd a very specialized dragon-killing servant, but his Noble Phantasm damage is honestly not going to be super impressive even compared to Siegfried's. He has no real way personally to up his Noble Phantasm damage, and on top of that, 600% really isn't that much. I kind of imagine you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck if you are lucky enough to get a NP2 Sigurd, but as it stands with just NP1, this Noble Phantasm has led many people to consider Sigurd's dragon slaying capabilities a little disappointing. So yeah, Sigurd does have a couple of issues, but we can easily patch those up with craft essences as well as supporting servants. Let's go ahead and start this time with the craft essences. Of course, if you're going to be immediately fighting a dragon enemy and you know that's going to happen on the map and you need to use Bulwark Graham right out the gate, then you definitely want to give him a kaleidoscope. But other than that, we are going to want to mainly focus on giving Sigurd critical star gather as well as additional crit damage. That first skill is incredibly powerful, but of course Sigurd falls victim to his class not really gathering crit stars all that well. So of course we are going to mention Conversation on the Hot Sands, one of, if not the absolute best star gather CE in the entire game. This is going to give you plus 400% crit star gather rate as well as plus 20% critical strength. If you were really focused on getting the best things for your buck, you grab this in Chaldea Boys Collection 2019. So I feel like most players have this, that it's really easy to recommend it. There's also another really strong craft essence you can give Sigurd focused on Stargather called Story of Love and Hope. Story of Love and Hope is going to give Sigurd a boost to critical star gather rate. It's also going to increase his critical strength as well as give him a NP gauge boost of 50%. And this is available during the 3rd anniversary event, so we're not going to have to wait too long to have an opportunity to snag this craft essence for ourselves. Of course, a nice little budget craft essence that you might have yourself is, of course, Seal Designation Enforcer. Seal Designation Enforcer definitely being the go-to if you don't have Hot Sands. That just gives you a boost to your critical star gather rate, and that's really the primary stat Sigurd is looking for. So, that's fine. So other than your typical caster support, there are honestly plenty of other characters out there who can grant Sigurd both the star gather as well as the critical strength that he needs. And this is fantastic, especially for flavor. One of the best characters you can pair him with on NA right now is actually Brynhildr. Brynhildr's Hero's Assistant rank C++ skill increases an ally's critical star gather rate for 3 turns and increases that ally's critical strength for 3 turns while healing them as well. It seems like this ability was designed with Sigurd in mind. It's so absolutely perfect for him that you definitely want to pair Bryn with Sigurd. Man, I love it when theme teams come together. Of course, there are other characters beyond that, though I'm not sure if Brynhildr will be super stoked about that. You can always go ahead and pair Sigurd with your Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes mainly because his elementary My Dear Noble Phantasm increases the crit strength of all allies for 3 turns. Also making allies ignore invincible, ignore defense, and has a defense reduction for all the enemies. So you go ahead and use this, Sigurd is going to be much stronger. You go ahead, use Sigurd's Noble Phantasm after Holmes uses his. You're going to get an overcharge boost that's going to help you if you are fighting a dragon type enemy. Speaking of characters with critical strength boosts tied to their Noble Phantasm, one character I've always considered supremely underrated is Summer Marie Antoinette. Summer Marie Antoinette has a Noble Phantasm overcharge ability that increases the crit strength of all allies for 3 turns by 20 to 40% depending on overcharge. But on top of that, she has an attack boost charisma style skill for all allies that also increases male allies' star drop rate, and she also has the ability to gain you critical stars every single turn. At level 10 of her second skill, you give her a Fragment of 2030, you activate this skill, and for 3 turns you are getting 18 critical stars per turn from one character, something Sigurd is going to absolutely delight in. Now, of course, we really do want to future-proof this video, so let's talk about some servants that have yet to hit NA, but are currently out on JP that you can use with Sigurd when they finally come out. And I'm, of course, going to start with the freebies, starting with Santa Nightingale. Again, I've mentioned her before. I'm really excited for her to eventually come out here. But the reason you would use Santa Nightingale is because of her third skill, the bell which the angel rings on the Holy Knight rank EX, which is still a mouthful. It increases all of your allies' attack strength, and it also grants all allies a critical strength boost. Both boosts that Sigurd would really like. On top of that, her Noble Phantasm cleanses offensive buffs from all enemies, as well as decreases their defense, so Sigurd is going to deal extra damage. Just when using Nightingale, you're really going to want to give Sigurd a Star Gather Craft Essence. Because of her Archer class, she's just going to steal a lot of those stars from Sigurd if you don't take the necessary precautions. Another free servant you can pair Sigurd with is Santa Quetzalcoatl. That's right, Santa Quetzalcoatl. If you didn't know about her, get excited. She is a ruler class servant. She has a skill that increases the attack of all allies for 3 turns and also grants critical stars every single turn. She can increase one ally's critical star gather rate as well as their star drop rate, and she can also increase her Buster card effectiveness and Buster card critical star gather rate. So if you have a turn where Sigurd is unable to attack, Quetzalcoatl Ruler can go ahead and deal some extra damage for you. And what else does her Noble Phantasm do? That's right, it follows the theme. It increases the critical strength for all allies on Overcharge. So you're going to get that crit strength boost again. Now, as far as your non-freebie characters, there are 2 others I want to mention specifically, and they happen to both be Summer servants. Summer Mabe, while an arts type damage dealer, does have the potential to help Sigurd. She has a ability that grants both an attack boost as well as a critical strength boost to all allies. She can increase her own NP gauge as well as gain critical stars every single turn, something else Sigurd is going to want. And her Noble Phantasm has a stacking defense down debuff. And finally, there is also Ruler Artoria Pendragon, also known as Bunny Suit Lartoria to some people. Yes, that is Lancer Artoria Rongaminiad Artoria in a bunny suit. She has an ability called Royal Card Rank C+, which randomly deals 5 new command cards at base, while also increasing the crit strength of all allies by 30 to 50%. But this skill actually did recently get a buff on JP, and this buff makes it so as certain allies' cards do not appear when those cards are reshuffled. So if you've got another support with Ruler Lartoria, or maybe you don't want Ruler Lartoria's cards to show up in the next hand, you can go ahead, do that, have a greater chance of Sigurd's cards showing up, and a greater chance of dealing those crits that you want. Overall, if we're just talking mechanically, I think Sigurd is a pretty decent single target saber that is going to get the job done, but he does have several problems that you need to overcome to use him effectively. He is a critical damage style servant, that is where most of his damage comes from, and unfortunately his star gather rate is mediocre at best, so you really need to focus on that in order to make Sigurd very strong. On top of that, his Noble Phantasm damage, while very strong against dragons, is also mediocre in any other situation. And with no reliable way to increase his Noble Phantasm damage, you're not going to really see a lot of crazy damage from Sigurd. On top of that, Sigurd faces some significant competition in his class from 2 servants that are lower rarities than him. I would still say that Lancelot Saber is the absolute best single target saber in the entire game, and he's arts, he's not Buster, and he's still going to overall deal more damage than Sigurd more often than not. And on top of that, there is another saber coming to NA, and that is Saber Diermuid. He is a quick type single target saber, and he also deals significant amounts of damage. And with a higher chance to gain an extra Noble Phantasm level with either of these characters, Sigurd is going to very quickly fall behind either of them if you have them in your Chaldea. But of course, I want to know what you all think about Sigurd, so go ahead and let me know any and all of your thoughts down in the comments. Let me know maybe some other craft essences you might want to equip on Sigurd. Let me know if there are other characters that you have personally paired Sigurd with. Maybe you're a JP player and you know these other characters really work well with him. And also just let me know if you pulled Sigurd, or maybe if you've pulled Valkyrie, because I know a lot of people are excited for Valkyrie. We've got a video for her in the works as well. As always, I hope you're having a phenomenal day, and we'll see you all in the next video.